Are you the one who starts the best conversations on Facebook, WhatsApp, or in the group chat? If so, this is the podcast for you. Hi, I'm Eva.
And I'm Don, and welcome to Chat and Bother. This is a 15-minute podcast where we start conversations and you and your circle finish them. So go ahead and share this episode with a friend or family member so they can listen to it and you can talk about it together.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So we started talking the other day about something that was like really, really funny. So we had to stop talking about it so that we could do it on the podcast. First of all, I want to say hi to you all. I don't know if you notice any difference in my voice. It's better than it was, but I've been gone for at least 6 weeks because I was sick and then my voice was gone and I was not going to be memorialized on the internet sounding like some sort of troll under a bridge.
I don't think it was trollish.
It was a troll.
I think, you just had some texture added to your voice.
That's not rocks?
No. I was thinking more
Sandpaper.
like an Eartha Kitt kind of thing.
No, it was not texture. It was rocks, sandpaper, and
sound
dirt.
like you were rolling different parts of your sound.
My throat was full of rocks and garbage. Anyway, so we missed you all. So we missed the entire Black History Month, which is a shame. But every month should be Black History Month, so we could just do it anyway. Right? So we were talking about the day that you found out that because you were Black, you couldn't go certain places or do certain things. And we thought it was really funny because we had different experiences when it came to that. I grew up in the South, in a city that most people who don't play polo or deal with horses haven't heard of, called Aiken, South Carolina. And Don?
I grew up in Newcastle, Delaware. But
where the free people be at?
Yes, it is just across the Mason-Dixon line.
That's where they used to run to.
Right. My dad's family is from Central Alabama. I got a little bit of both because every summer and during Thanksgiving, that was where we headed.
No, holidays, man, no, they real nice on holidays. That's not gonna count. That does not count.
Summer's not so much.
No, still. And you probably don't look local.
Okay, we're gonna have to unpack that.
That's another day. That's
another episode.
Did you ever find out in the North though that there were places Black people couldn't go, or y'all could go anywhere you wanted?
I never felt that until I started working.
So it wasn't like during your formative years.
I felt like there were places where there was more of us. At least there was a sense of comfort or understanding.
So where I grew up, there were certain places you just didn't go. See, at first I thought it was that you didn't go because you didn't want to, not because you couldn't go. Right?
I'll take it back. There were certain neighborhoods. Newcastle and Wilmington, there's a mix of people, but it's still pretty segregated.
Chicago is, that y'all have ethnic neighborhoods.
Yeah.
So we didn't have that.
So there's like Little Italy, there's, pockets where like the Irish or the Polish families are. There's pockets where it's mostly Black people. There's Dominicans in one section, Puerto Ricans in another section. But there was a neighborhood where it was just white people in that one neighborhood for a long time. And it was like their last enclave they sort of held on to very vigorously. Now it's not anymore, but like in the 80s and 90s, that was an area where you just didn't go in there because there was a riot. Black and whites from the bordering neighborhoods clashed for a couple different times. My mom and them told us, don't go over there. That was just that one neighborhood.
I find that to be fascinating because for me, the only time that I heard of different ethnicities or different cultural groups separating like that was like West Side Story. I was like, y'all all look the same. I don't quite understand why this is happening, right? Or you would hear on the news about, back then, what was it? Serbia was a bit, the war. Yeah. And I'm like, how do you tell the difference between these people? Everybody, to me, because, when you grow up in the South, it's either white or Black.
Right.
There, you might see somebody from India every now and then if you go to a private school like I did.
Yeah.
But just generally, the neighborhoods weren't separated by, it was like either Black or white, and that's it. I don't know where Asian people lived. I don't know where people from India lived. but we knew what neighborhood was black. And actually, it was more of like a side of town.
Right.
So North Side was split between the black part of North Side and the white part of North Side. Those did not mix. There was the South Side, and I think there were black people over there, but I didn't see very many. I didn't.
That sounds weird. Being here on South Side of Chicago, like knowing that there's a South Side somewhere where there ain't no black people is.
It had cows and horses. That's what South Side had. It had cows and horses.
Okay.
And that was where I found out that there were, like, I went to my teacher's house one day. I was in the 3rd grade, and my teacher happened to live up the street from us. And when you say up the street in a rural area,
it's like, what, 2 miles away?
It's a hall, but it's still on the same street.
That's your block?
Right, my block, past all the cows and the split rail fences and all of that. I didn't consider that there would be people that I knew or that I would come in contact with that didn't like black people. And so my teacher lived on our street. My parents were going to be late picking us up. So she was like, well, we live in the same area. Why don't you just ride home with us? And I knew her kids, thought it would be perfectly fine. So we get there having a fantastic time. I knew that my parents needed to pick me up at a certain time. And I didn't think about why they needed to pick me up at that certain time, but they needed to be there at that time. My teacher reiterated that, and so did my friend, who was her kid. Of course, my parents are on Caribbean people time.
Oh, boy.
Which is at least 30 minutes later than black people time.
Wait, was this a sundown town?
No, it was not a sundown town, but it was a sundown house. And when that man arrived, it was like the lights went out.
No.
Okay? It was like the lights went out because there was a black child in his living room. And he didn't say anything.
But you felt the heat.
It was the hush that came over my usually kind of boisterous teacher, the kids I'd been playing with all day, and I never went over there again. And I never said anything to my parents about it being weird or anything like that. But I believe they had a conversation with the mother, because I think what she was trying to do was just kind of sneak me in and sneak me out. I guess maybe he may have said something to her like, that's not going to work out.
Wow.
And I heard about it later because I knew, we didn't go over there, not even regular during the day on the weekends or anything like that, even though they lived within walking distance of our house. That was 3rd grade. But I'm not really sure. Oh, okay. So you had told me, and that's where I was like, okay, stop. This needs to be, This has to be discussed. You spent summers in Alabama.
Yep.
You had a don't go over there encounter.
For context, my neighborhood growing up, it's an all black neighborhood. My best friend, the kid across the street, is a white kid. He's the only white kid in the neighborhood.
That's not an all black neighborhood. That's a blackish neighborhood.
Well, they were the only white people in the white kids in the neighborhood. When we played, he was the only person that wasn't black that played with us.
Oh, okay.
For me, it was natural for me to hang out with white kids. I go with my aunts to run some errands, and they went to the laundromat.
And this is Alabama?
This is in central Alabama.
Okay.
They live outside of a small town, which is in between all the big towns. But
the big towns of central Alabama. Continue.
Right.
Trying to make things sound better than Aiken. It wasn't bigger.
We are at the laundromat, and I'm playing with my little Matchbox car. Kid comes up, looks like he wants to play. I'm like, all right, cool, that's cool. I let the kid play with the car till I was like, all right, that's enough. I want to play with my car now. The kid takes the car and runs off. So, of course, I'm like, this is not happening. I am fixated on getting my car back. My aunt sees me chase this kid to the front of the laundromat. Now, me not being aware of what the rules of the South are or any of that, I don't think about the fact that we're way in the back of the laundromat. The kid runs to the front of the laundromat where his family is. Now, of course, I'm probably a little bit more spoiled than I need to be. And so I'm chasing this little boy. She's probably like, all right, let me save this boy. So she pulls me back. She was like, I will get you another car. Just come back here. And so I'm like, why is she so pressed to come back here? Because I'm like, I just want my car. The car was a car from one of my favorite shows at the time. The General Lee from Dukes of Hazzard.
Which is a problem in itself.
Which is a whole problem.
That is a whole other discussion and a different show.
Now, my dad, I always wanted to watch the Dukes of Hazzard and wanted him to sit there and watch me, play with this car and trying to mimic the stunts that they were doing.
Oh, and the horn the horn that goes. No. It doesn't play that. It plays the
But-
fact that it had a rebel flag on the hood.
Yeah, I don't know how he let me watch
Oh,
that.
we had one in our house, the big one. We had at least two of them bad boys in the house because my parents don't know no better. Now remember that.
No, see, my dad grew up with that all around. They had that little
Man.
patch of heaven where it was just all that little black neighborhood, but everything around
If
there
I was your dad, I'd have set that car on fire.
Man,
every
I don't know
chance I
how he
got.
didn't because I'd be in there and when they jump and do a stunt, you know what they do? Yeah!
Oh, it was. Dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun.
Yeah.
That's the song. That's the song.
So to hear his little black son
Yeehawing
sitting on
through
the
the house.
floor, yeehawing,
Oh my gosh.
letting out rebel yells.
And my parents had no context for that.
Yeah.
So we sat there, we watched that show, and then we also watched, what was that show? Hee Haw. We watched Hee Haw religiously. Had no clue what we were looking at.
What's wild is that was maybe 82 when my aunt is trying to pull me back to the back of the laundromat. First, I thought she was just pulling me away from the kid. Fast forward 12, 14 years later, me and my best friend in high school, we had a chance to do a project. His family was from Alabama too. So we came back down there and did a pictorial representation of the South. You see 4 bathrooms. The signs are still up for some of them, but a lot of them, the signs have been maybe popped off or fell off. But that town still has a lot of those things still up in 1994. I can only imagine that less than 12 years out from the 60s,
Your aunt was probably terrified.
she was
Because
probably like,
she's thinking Emmett Till right now. Like,
Right.
you are chasing this boy into the front of the laundromat.
you don't
and
know no better?
You are.
What is wrong
That's
with
what
you?
you get for bringing them children up to the north. Got them thinking they could just do whatever they feel like doing.
Right. So she probably thinking she saved me, and she might have, but who knows?
It's probably about the same, a little bit. I was probably about the same age that you realize there are people that just because I'm this color aren't going to deal with me or don't want to deal with me for what. And I remember just feeling so confused. Like I never took it to mean there was something wrong with me, which I think is because of the way that my parents thought about race. They grew up in a place where everybody's black or brown. They don't think about race the same way that other people in America think about race.
Yeah.
They know that there are people who think this way, but in my head, it was always, there's something wrong with those people.
Right.
It's not me. I am perfectly fine. But they have some sort of mental block or mental problem or somebody taught them wrong.
Right.
But it's definitely not me. And it's definitely not my brownness that is the problem. It's them. And I never really thought that their whiteness was a problem. I thought that it was a mental thing. It was something in their mind.
Do you remember the first time somebody called you the N-word?
Absolutely. It was third grade. Third grade was a rough year for me. This little boy in my class, if we were all sitting in class, it was during class, not before or after. And this little boy, I don't remember his name, but I remember he was blonde. And he said it, and I just sat there. Because again, my parents aren't from here, so I had never heard the word before. Because back then, you couldn't say it on television, at least not on any TV that I watched. So we never heard the word. My parents didn't say it. And so I just sat there. And everybody in the class, because I'm the only black kid at that point in the school, turns and looks at me. And I'm looking at them like, what? The teacher actually took me out of class to explain to me why I should be offended and what the N-word was. And I'm just looking at her, and she's like, that means, from what I recall, she was like, that means he was calling you lazy, and he was calling you this, that, and the third.
This was a black teacher?
No, it's a white. I was the only black person at the school. There were no other black people there. So I'm just kind of like, how did he get all of that out of one word? None of it made any sense to me. But I realized that she wasn't explaining this to the class. She was only talking to me. And she's, stammering over why this was so bad. And I'm like, so why are you talking to me?
When you tell him that.
Right. You might want to talk to him because I ain't do nothing.
Right.
I'm just sitting here. Like she wanted me to have a reaction. Like, I don't know if maybe it was a concern that, oh my God, this child is so dumb that she is going to go out into the world and not even know that she's supposed to be offended by this. And, you know, most people knew that my parents weren't local.
Yeah.
You know, so I guess they expected some things to be a little off, but that thing she did not expect, for me not to understand why I should be falling apart or in tears or whatever. So have you ever been called the N-word in a hostile sort of a way?
Yes. It happened when I was in a summer program. I was in a program for advancing minorities in engineering, and it was on University of Delaware's campus. We were walking back from one session to the dorms, me and a couple of friends, and this pickup truck comes rumbling by, and they yell out the N-word and a bunch of other stuff, but they didn't stick around to discuss anything with us. It was obviously a little defeating to think that, okay, we're here trying to better ourselves, we're here working hard, and that's all you can muster up. Like, that's what you come at us with. You know, it's frustrating, but
I would definitely say that by the time I was a teenager, we knew where to go and where not to go.
yeah.
It wasn't a discussion, and it's not that you wanted to go,
Yeah.
but when we started going to, they called them escape schools, and they're all built around the same time during integration of the schools. We went to all of the schools I went to, except for two schools, except the school that I graduated from. And I only went there for a year and a half. And then one of the public schools that I went to for 4 months. The rest of the schools I attended were all escape schools. You would find out that your friends were going to be eating at a certain country club. You would have to meet them after. The kids knew, and they would tell you the club doesn't accept Black people, but they still would go. Like, they're different
They're
from the
not
kids.
interrupting their plans.
Yeah, they're not going to change their plans for you
They're
because
still
you're the
going to
only
that
one in the
club.
school. Like, it's not going to make a difference. What I notice about today's kids, which is wonderful, I could not imagine, at least not the kids that our kids know and deal with now. I could not imagine if that came up, that they would not hold their parents accountable. Like, why are you a member of such a place? Or they would not leave their friend to go find somewhere else to eat.
Right.
And then meet up with them after.
Right.
They'd be like, oh, so we can't go here.
Right.
We have to find someplace else that everyone can go. And it would be on social media. We tried to go to this place. We couldn't bring so-and-so with us.
Blasted. Yeah.
Somebody would be canceled.
Yep.
Somebody would have 1-star reviews all over the internet.
Right.
You know, the kids today, in what is technically a pretty short period of time,
Yeah.
are better children. You still have those one-off kids that, you know, the ones you hear about that are losing their scholarships, they're dressing in blackface or whatever, but you're hearing about them.
Right.
It's not that they're just doing it and it's perfectly normal.
Right.
Their peers are holding them accountable for their bad behavior.
The visibility is the key, because now social media gives the opportunity to air out these
Yes.
things. And the kids nowadays have access to tools that can shed light on that.
And they want to, which I find to be wonderful.
Yeah.
That they don't want things to continue as they were. I guess I got to go to work.
I gotta go to work.
So we will talk again. You know, Women's History Month is coming up, or it's now. I say coming up as if the month's not already
Right.
half gone.
Right. We're halfway
I just
to
haven't.
April.
We just haven't talked in so long. So I hope I didn't sound too bad.
No, you sounded great.
You don't think it was bad? You don't think
I'm
I
a
sound
little
like
biased, but you know,
I got? Okay.
I mean, you didn't have to sing or nothing, so it's cool.
Are we talking? First of all, you ain't Luther Vandross either.
Woo!
Nope.
See?
I'm gonna cut that.
I don't know why you would cut that.
I'm gonna cut that.
Great. That was great.
Y'all have a fantastic rest of the morning, and we will talk to you later on. Bye.
Bye. Thank you for joining us for Chat and Bother. Go ahead and like our Facebook page and share this episode with people that you want to chat with or just feel like bothering, or both. Visit our website, chatandbother.com, for our episode guide and other ways to connect with us. Take care.